you have a burning lawn question that you're looking to get answered? Well, welcome to the Great Green North Lawn Care. I am here to educate homeowners just like you about how to take your lawn to the next level. So if that sounds like a great idea to you, hit the subscribe button, the like down below, and make sure you stay tuned because we're getting right into it. All right, so many times throughout the season, I've been asking for your guys' Q&A questions, and now it's finally time to sit down and answer some of them. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'm just going to read them off. We're going to kind of go through answers for each individual question. If you have a question that you would like to ask, you can submit it in the comments down below or send it to my website or email right here on the screen. All right, so the first question from Jordan M. Awesome video, great detail. Just wondering if you had any advice about spraying weed killer well in advance and apply something like Metrozone. I was told that you could spray this at the same time as overseeding. Is that true? All right, so Jordan, let me tell you my opinion on this. And this is my opinion for most spring renovations. There's a lot of people that get very obsessed with tenacity. They want to use tenacity at the time of seeding, and I believe that actually mesotrone is an active ingredient in tenacity. So this is something, very similar to tenacity. It basically kind of works like a bleach. It is a weed control that works at the time of seeding as well as a pre-emergent. However, if you are going to be spraying weed killer well in advance of seeding, what I would suggest is basically just use, a 2,4-D dithiopyr quinclorac, a Kill-X over-the-counter weed control that you can spray and take care of those weeds, 2 to 3 weeks in advance. You can check the bottle. Most weed killers, it's about 2 weeks. They want you to wait before you seed at the same time. So as long as you spray that weed killer, 2 weeks before you're doing your renovation, you shouldn't have any issues. And as if you take care of those weeds beforehand with that weed killer, you shouldn't really have any issues with those weeds coming back up while you're trying to water and fill in those spots. Another great thing, I know there's a lot of people that when they overseed spots, they like to import soil. They go buy bags of, topsoil and stuff like that. Don't do that. All those bags of topsoil are doing is importing weed seeds from other places in the world. And that's when you're going to get that really infested weed spot when you're trying to seed in. So spray out the weeds that are already there, and if it's just bare, as soon as you sprayed out the weeds, throw down your seed. 2 weeks after you've sprayed, make sure you check the bottle. Some weed killers might have a specific time period, it normally says. And then after that, you can throw your seed down, water. Staying on top of watering and fertilizing correctly will allow your seed to come in, and you shouldn't have any issues fighting weeds. As soon as your seed's been established for about a month and a half, you should be able to spray out any weeds that you should see. But what I would probably say is that when you throw down your seed, those weeds shouldn't really interfere before the end of the winter. I mean, unless you have a more extended season than mine, you shouldn't really be seeing any major weed pressure. We're heading pretty much straight into the fall at the end of the season here. So you shouldn't see any major weed pressure. Those weeds shouldn't be interfering. And then as soon as the winter comes, you can go ahead and just let your lawn go dormant. Next spring, spray out any weeds that come in. Then your lawn will be more than established enough to take care of that weed killer. Next question is from Tom. When can you fertilize a dormant lawn? I was told not until you start watering in the fall when you see it getting out of it. Then can you fertilize? All right, so basically, as far as I understand, this question is saying, when should I fertilize my dormant lawn to bring it out of dormancy? So if your lawn has gone into summer dormancy or basically kind of died off this summer, that's called summer dormancy. And your lawn will eventually come out of that once the rain starts to come. So what I would suggest is if you are looking at when you should fertilize your lawn, look at your weather patterns from previous years. If you're in the Southern Ontario area, I can tell you that normally about late August, you'll see that end of summer begin to show up. Temperatures will cool off by about 4 or 5 degrees, and you'll start getting rainstorms, in the afternoon, thunderstorms as that summer kind of rolls out. You start to get rainy days here and there. The rain starts to come back. When you see that rain starting to come back, and I've been around, I can predict when that rain is going to come back, normally about a week in advance. So when you see that rain is going to start coming back, hit the lawn with a fertilizer right away. That fertilizer will help kickstart the lawn out of dormancy, and then as soon as that rain comes in, that rain's going to really help pull it out of dormancy. But that extra fertilizer just gives it that extra punch to help bring it out of dormancy. If you decided, you know, you were putting your house on the market and you wanted to have a nice green lawn, you could put down fertilizer and then start irrigating. But I would suggest that if you're going to do that during a period of heavy stress, you should be going pretty light on the fertilizer. You might end up seeing more issues if you're not irrigating properly, areas getting burned out and things like that. When things are really dry, the lawn is less resilient to over application of fertilizer. So just be very careful. But when you're applying that fertilizer, I would definitely suggest, if you did let your lawn go into dormancy, just wait until you start to see those rain periods coming in, and then you should be good to go ahead and hit the lawn with that fertilizer, and then that rain will help bring the lawn easily out of dormancy. Another question, how do you attack anthill problems in the lawn? Thanks, and keep up the great videos. Well, thank you for the question. So anthills is actually an issue I've had a lot in my area and on the property. Because our sand where I'm located is because our soil is so sandy, it's silica sand, pure sand after the first 2 feet of topsoil. The ants just love it here. So the best thing that I've found for dealing with anthills in the lawn is basically to isolate them. So keep your eye out when you're mowing. If you find an anthill, there's a couple things you can do. Basically, what I normally get is some sort of over-the-counter ant killer spray or some over-the-counter ant killer powder. Isolate that hill. You know, if you really need to, take a spray paint can, mark it out with spray paint, and then put that ant powder on it, you know, 1 or 2 times. You know, every time you go to cut the grass, just give a little bit of ant powder, and you should see that ant farm go away. As soon as you get rid of the hill, most of the ants under the ground should be taken care of as well. If you're really seeing a heavy ant presence in your lawn, if you're in the US, you can go get 7. You can apply that at the preventative rate for ants, and that will take care of your problem. If you're in Canada, it's very hard to find pesticides in Canada. What I would probably suggest your best route of action would be to call your local lawn care company and ask if they can come and spray a pesticide on your property. Most of the time they can get access to some sort of, you know, pesticide for chinch bug or ants, and that can help take care of the problem, the root cause. And normally, you know, after a couple of years of taking care of the ant problems, you shouldn't really see them coming back, so you might have to call the company back a couple times. But as long as that company's taking care of it for you, you should be pretty safe. Jay Spursberg asks, I want to let my lawn go dormant throughout the hot summer. How much water should I put down, or do I water at all? I don't want to stress my lawn out more by adding water if it's only going to hurt it in the end. So this is a question I get a lot. There's a lot of people that, you know, feel that watering at a normal rate is just too much for them. They can't afford the water, or they just don't want to do it, and they're going to let their lawn go into dormancy. Now, this is a very hard question because you're asking, I want my lawn to go into dormancy, but I don't want it to get damaged, which is a very difficult question to ask. If your lawn goes into dormancy, you are going to see damage. Now, there's ways that you can water minimizing the damage. So what I would say, if you're going to let your lawn go into dormancy, you need to be putting down about a ½ inch of water every 2 weeks. This is basically going to help keep the crown of the plant alive. So then hopefully when the rain comes back and you fertilize, you should see only minor little dead spots around. This is what I did in my backyard this year, and I can show you a before and after of what it looked like while it was in dormancy and when it came out of dormancy. And as you can see, there's just some minor dead spots where those crowns were unable to stay alive. Now that could be other things, that could be disease, that could be insects, that could be other factors in that soil as well. The grass there could have been new. But yes, the answer to that question would be, if you're going to let your lawn go dormant, at least a ½ inch of water every 2 weeks will help keep that lawn alive throughout the time being. So sometimes if it's really hot, you're not going to get that water. You're going to have to put that down by yourself. If it's not that hot, you know, if you're getting a ½ inch of water but it's still hot, that will help hold your lawn over for a good portion of the summer. Even though it's straw brown, if you're getting a ½ inch of water, that's going to keep those crowns alive. The other question I had was basically about the baseline and straight line products and the differences between them two. So baseline itself is basically the equivalent of your granular fertilizer in a liquid product. So let's talk just about liquid fertilizers in general. Liquid fertilizers are to spoon feed. They are not to actually, you know, put down a heavy amount of fertilizer. That's why if you read the instructions in the Grow Forge bottles, they say they're meant to be applied about every 2 weeks. So liquid fertilizer, you're doing smaller doses more often. More granular fertilizer, they're considered slow release. When they go into the soil, it takes a long time for them to release the nitrogen over a couple of months, a period of months. So when you're talking about, you know, liquid fertilizers, which one do I choose, the straight line or the baseline? The straight line itself is basically a whole bunch of micronutrients. It's made to give you basically an overall texture improvement, an overall color improvement, and an overall just kind of look improvement of the grass. So if you're seeing your grass kind of yellowy, kind of dying, you know, it just doesn't have that color. That would be when you're gonna grab that straight line. Or, you know, if you're coming up and you're having a wedding and you want the grass to look that really dark green color, that's when you're gonna grab that straight line. The baseline itself is basically a liquid fertilizer. So the baseline actually has it's a 14-4-14, and it has those 3 major nutrients to help feed the lawn through periods. So it's gonna give you your N, P, and K. So when you're looking at putting down baseline, the baseline you're gonna be putting down is going to be basically a fertilizer to help growth, keep the lawn growing. So the baseline would be basically the fertilizer that you can apply throughout the summer to keep your lawn growing. The straight line is going to be kind of a micronutrient thing. Now, what you can do, what I did for the summer, and I found it extremely successful, alternate baseline and straight line. So basically every month you're getting 1 application of baseline, 1 application of straight line. The organohume is also basically just more micronutrients. It's going to help boost those major nutrients that's in the soil. So maybe adding some humic acid while you're applying the baseline and the straight line would not hurt. And then the TPA wetting agent as well, that gives you about 3 months of protection. So looking at putting down that as well at the same time. So, and then as I said in the fall lawn guide video that I did a couple of weeks ago, when you're talking about fertilizer in the fall, you are not going to be looking at applying these liquid fertilizers in the fall. When you're talking about heavy bombing the lawn with fertilizer in the fall to get it to grow, that's when you're going to be looking at your urea, your more, you know, granular based fertilizers. These fertilizers are going to be pushing hard nutrients into the ground in the fall. If you're looking at, you know, just keeping your lawn going throughout the fall, you don't really want to push nutrients that much, you can stick with the liquids. But I would definitely suggest, if you're going into the fall, make sure to go hard with those granulars. Those granular fertilizers are really going to help take your lawn to the next level this fall. Hitting hard with the granular fertilizers really strengthens your lawn and helps take it to the next level. Without further ado, thank you guys for watching this video. If you have any questions or any comments that I missed, feel free to leave them in the comment section of this video. You can also submit them through the bottom of my website, greatgreennorthlawncare.ca, or you can submit them through my email, greatgreennorthlawncare@gmail.com. Thank you guys for liking, commenting, and subscribing. And as always, keep it green.